Hello all, welcome back to the Fangirl Fantasy Podcast. Yes, it still exists. I know it's been so long, but I had to have a dramatic amount of time because of the next guest. And the guest on today, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to wait a long time. And then I'm going to be like, boom, break the internet. Rafy.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
Miss Rafy Evans.
Hi.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for this one.
I am too. I mean, I feel like it's been a long time coming.
Yes. So we have known each other probably for like 8 or 9 months now. Give or take.
Give or take, yeah.
Because of our jobs. We were both assistants in the influencer world.
Yeah.
And how did you get there? Let's just jump into it. How did you become Bryce Hall's assistant, the first female of Sway, all of it? What happened?
Yeah. So it was a mix of like a lot of good things happening at one time, but essentially I was working at the University of Florida. I was working in content for the university. I've always like been very, very tapped in with social media. I've always been very tapped into the content world and, you know, influencers as a whole and talent as a whole, but I didn't really have any way to really break in or whatnot. But I was lucky enough to have a friend who like obviously was living in LA and she was working kind of adjacently with everybody. And we just did like a friendship check-in basically in the middle of quarantine because I had just started at UF and then almost immediately we went straight into quarantine. So we were at home, you know, rekindling friendships, whatnot. And she was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I was like, sounds kind of up my alley. And previously in college, I had done a lot of events. I had done a lot of concerts, worked with a lot of talent in college too. And she was like, well, I feel like you would be really good at it. Like, why don't you just send me your stuff? And, you know, if we ever have anything, we'll have something. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty early on in quarantine. And then, so I sent her my, you know, my resume, cover letter, and didn't really think of anything. And I had just started a new job anyway. So I wasn't really planning on leaving anytime soon. So, honestly, like a couple months like later, I get a like LinkedIn notification that someone from Town X Entertainment is viewing my LinkedIn. And obviously immediately I call my friend and I'm like, do you know what's going on? Like, what's up? And she was like, I haven't heard anything, but yeah, maybe that's the case. Yeah. Like, yeah. So it ended up that I get an email from Warren Lenz, who King, you know, the actual King. Warren had reached out, on behalf of talent that he was, you know, working with and was saying, hey, like, there's an open position, like, we'd love to interview for. You're already being considered based on, you know, your like application, but like I hadn't applied, which is why it was like weird to me. So it was cool that I was being considered at any point. Didn't know who the talent was, didn't know anything about it, didn't know anything. I honestly didn't even know like what the role was. Like I didn't even know it was a PA role at the time. So Warren sent me an email and I had known his name because I had known about Full Screen. And I had known that, you know, he had run his course and he was doing...
Did your homework?
Yeah, I had done my homework up to that point. So I was getting on the phone with him no matter what. And we got on the phone and, like, we honestly talked for, like, we were scheduled for, like, 15 minutes, like, honestly, real basic intro call. We ended up talking for, like, an hour. And if you know Warren, you know that, like, him giving time...
That means a lot.
Yeah, like, he's a busy dude, and at that time, I'm sure he was, too. So for him to give me an hour of time to, like, talk about my passions and creative and industry... And we just, like, gabbed about digital. Like, we really just, like, gabbed, and he kind of tested my knowledge on it. And then at the end of the hour call, he was like, so, like, how do you feel about Bryce Hall? And I was like, oof. And I was like, you know, this is game time. Like, this is the biggest it's going to get. And I was like, yeah, I can handle a challenge. And he was like, great. So I'm already considering you. Next steps are, like, obviously, like, let's have the combo with Bryce. And then 2 weeks later, I quit my job. Well, like, a couple days later, I quit my job. 2 weeks later, I was in LA. And it was, like, almost a year ago today.
That liner, though, is... How do you feel about
Bryce Hall? Yeah, and there was, like, a lot going on at that period. Like, if you think back to last July and what was going on in this space.
You have to Google them.
Yeah, especially at that time. And for me, what I've always said is I wanted to be, like, at the major leagues of digital. And I got the opportunity to be, like, my first step really was in the digital, like, major leagues. And I don't think I was ill-prepared, but I think I was given, like, a really crazy opportunity.
Job,
yeah, like, crazy opportunity. And I've worked at so many different things in my life up until that point that all kind of made sense to that being the step. So all the cards really just like came together.
You were like where you needed to be at that time.
Exactly. Like, and I used to think that like working in Gainesville, Florida was like going to be it for me. And then I was like, oh my God, can you imagine? Like,
I think the craziest thing out of all that was your first time in LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And like getting thrown into it like that is
I was really lucky that I had friendships here, and I had a great support like system here already built, just because people were more courageous than I was after graduating, and like really moved out here with nothing immediately. And like my current roommate right now was looking for a roommate, and I basically called her and I was like, stop looking. I think something's happening here.
It's me.
And she was like, what? And you know, if I had to, you know, be worried about trying to find an apartment, trying to find, you know, a car, like everybody had already figured it out for me. It was like, get the job. And I'm really lucky that majority of people move here and never come with a job.
Ever. Yeah. It's so mind-boggling sometimes. They just like, we'll figure it out when we get there. I'm like, ugh.
And I'm just not that person. I'm really not. I think I'm a risk taker, but there's practicality to there's calculated risk in what I do. So for me, it was always have the job before you move. And then I was really lucky that it actually happened.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you got that summer of last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy that it's like literally a year ago from when we're recording this. Like Bryce's birthday, obviously the 21st birthday was my first day of work. And I remember like waking up the next day and just being like, wow, I can really choose like two paths here. I can either like really lean in and really, because at that point I had no idea really what to expect and what I would be needed for. And very quickly I learned
everything.
Yeah. Well, what was necessary to make myself kind of just the best that I could be in that role. And I was lucky enough that like I was the first person to do it. So there was no prior me before me.
There's no the expectations.
Yeah,
they're Rafy now.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. But the job became whatever I wanted to make of it. And I'm sorry for whoever comes after, because it's like an all-encompassing role, you know? But there were a lot of things that I wanted to get my hands into. So it was a lot of me being proactive in that sense. And
you knew what you wanted out of that job.
Of course. Like, I mean, my goal was never to be that forever. And I think that's where people get stuck sometimes. But no, I wanted to make a career out of it. That was really just going to be the first step for me.
And you got the job and the role that you kind of set out for in LA.
Yeah.
And since I met you, since we've talked, I said I wanted to do this and that, and this is what you said you wanted to do, the role that you are currently in at Triller.
Yeah, so I have always told everybody that my goal is to be like talent partnerships. My dream job had always been to be creator partnerships at Instagram. Like that, I am obsessed with that team. I have always been obsessed with that team. Like when they built that team, I was obsessed with it. And that was the first like company that I watched create something like that. And especially with creators first. And I've always cared about creators kind of sometimes more than I care about, you know, like the A-list or whatnot. And I've always been tapped into that culture, probably because we come from that culture. So for me to get a chance to do that was the goal and the dream. And when Triller came and they were like, hey, we basically have this role, I was like, wait, that's what that's like what you came here to do. Like, yeah. So it was a perfect fit, and, you know, it was a great next step for me. And
do you see similarities in the two roles, or do you see that the role that you, being Bryce's assistant, did it set you up with the knowledge that you needed for this next role?
Absolutely. I mean, you can learn as much as you can, like, you know, doing the research and the digital and the YouTube and you can learn the social media, the analytical stuff, and you can research the data and whatnot, how things trend, whatnot. But like, there's such a piece of talent relations that comes into a role like that. And I think that's like honestly where you and me thrive. Like that's what we bring to the table. And I have always cared about mentorship. I've always cared about relationships, and every job that I've done, that's been a valuable part of what I've learned. And I know what I bring to the table is being a very good friend and a good mentor, and, you know, to really show that care through what I work on and what I do. So so much of what I do right now is built on those relationships that I had the opportunity to form through Bryce and, you know, through being in that world. And I would have never met those people. And, you know, I'm lucky to have been in some of the rooms that I was in and have met some of the people that I've met. And, you know, hard work was the second half of that.
Yeah, definitely.
But I would have never really been in those situations had I not gotten the opportunity to work with, you know, him first.
Definitely. I think it's true. Yeah, you were put in the room, but then what you did in those rooms
right.
Catapult
because, like,
you
anybody can get in sometimes, and it's about capitalizing
as we go to these parties, we're like, how did you get here?
Yeah. No, I take it as such a sign of, honestly, like, honor when creators who are now, like, friends, like, come up to you at a party and, like, make sure to say hello, or because I'm like, okay, I know that I'm important to these people because they are important to me. And, you know, I never want to walk in a room and have introduced myself to somebody and them, you know, not remember me either. So it's, like, important to me to, like, learn names, you know, to make sure to check in on projects that people are doing. And you have no idea how the relationships will change over the time that you know them. And that's currently happening with me. Like, people didn't think, you know, I would move on from what I was doing. And now we're having the ability to work together in a different kind of a way. And I'm thankful that a lot of people were nice about it because, you know, I'm coming back and I'm having the opportunity to work with a lot of people who have become my friends. And that's been really awesome for me. And
yeah, your new role is like you get to help them in a different way. Where before you got to help them as like Bryce's homies, and it's like, oh, you know, Bryce is going to this event, like, can I come too? Because you know what I mean, like that. You were like the homie helper, like, you know, like, and I like understand. And now it's like you're helping as like a business partner.
Right. No, I tell whenever I'm trying to, you know, talk to new people or talent.
I kind of like homie helper.
Homie helper. I feel like that has a negative connotation.
Homie helper.
Helper? Yeah. I feel like it sounds like homie hopper, and that's
no, I was not saying
helper. Yeah, I help all the homies.
Yeah, it's like I feel like that was as Bryce, is like you were the homie helper.
I feel like I mean, you get it too. Like, you're a problem solver, and the difference is who comes to me with their problems and like I love to solve other people's problems. Like, it is my number one.
You don't like solving our own?
Not our own, ever. Like, the list for me goes on and on. But if you come to me, like, in despair and need help problem solving, like, I will drop everything to help you.
Literally.
So, but yeah, it is what it is. It's like, I've been lucky to have met a lot of people who are nice to me, and I recognize the ones who weren't, and it is what it is. Like, I tell every creator I meet that especially now, like, I want to onboard as many people to Triller as I can. And that's like a goal of mine, is so many friends of mine don't see the opportunity there. And, you know, as their friend and as somebody who works at that company, like, I want to show them what the potential is there. So it's good to have those conversations with people and be like, hey, like, you know, you can do more than you're doing right now. And, like, I have confidence in you to do that.
Definitely.
And I see growth here, but I tell everybody, I'm like, I'm down to make myself rich and everybody else I know rich. Like, that is what I'm trying to do here. Like,
definitely.
Like, why do for me what I can do for everybody else?
Yeah, it's a community, and I feel like people forget that sometimes.
All the time.
It's like, no, we're all in this together. Just think about how quickly it all switches, like who's popping, who's not popping,
right?
Like, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah,
but it's also like, who's popping right now might not be popping later. And who's small right now might pop in a year. And you want to be homies with everybody. You want to be nice to everybody. And I don't think people see the value or recognize, like, that is the most important thing. Like, your relationships matter more than anything.
Agreed. I think what's funny is me and you are very similar in the way of, like, we always know, like, even just like parties, like, oh my god, just, you know, that person, that, like, we're very much in the, like, we know who works for what companies because, like, either we've dreamed of working for that company or, like, that person, we follow their careers, like, very similarly. Yeah. Like, we're always like, oh yeah, did you see that? And we're like, how did you know that? Like, me and you, I feel like are very, like, could be the only two people who knew who that random person was.
But that's the point. Like, that's the point.
We're very similar. It's like, we do our homework, we know who's important.
Knowledge is such power in this. Yeah, like, knowing how people are connected, knowing who's done what. Like, again, you might get the opportunity to get in the room. Like, you need to know.
You gotta take catapult it. Yeah. And me and you will, like, walk by and we'll just, like, look at each other. We're like, you saw that? Okay. Like,
and it's never disingenuous either. It's just like, wow, we're such fans of, and I think that's where the fangirl piece of it. It's like, we from the get-go understood how important and valuable, like, teams were.
Yeah.
And, like, what teams could do for a person, how close those people are to other people, and, you know, how much, because I feel like we probably saw ourselves doing that.
Yes.
From the very beginning, at least I did, and I was like, oh, I want to learn more about how that person operates, and I want to learn where their background is. And there's nothing like cooler than me than someone who's like might not be in the spotlight but adjacent, who is like wheeling and dealing all kinds of ways.
Like, Olivia, I mean, a perfect example, and she's brought up 1,000 times in this podcast. I had her on, but like Olivia, like she was the girl. She was it. She was the one who like fans to artists. Like she was the one that kind of made
Olivia is the pipeline. Like Olivia created what people know to be now as being a fan and then becoming an industry professional.
Was there anybody else that you kind of watched their journey, like when they were a fan, they're like our age, that like turned into that?
Yeah. So my first LA Connect ever was this girl, Helen Showalter. She is a queen. She's over at CrowdSurf. And before I ever thought I was ever going to move to LA, and she was the first person I knew that works in the music industry. And she comes from a Backstreet Boys background. But I met her during the Cab days.
Love the Cab.
Shout out the Cab. I was a massive fan for the Cab for a very, very long time. Me being the Cab fan resulted like 10 years later in like it becoming something, which is so funny. But Helen was the first person I ever watched like be a fan, create, like be hired by fans. Like that entire company is based on being a fangirl. I
love CrowdSurf.
And that was a huge thing for me to watch someone who, you know, drove like fan engagement or artist campaigns online, fully like street team level stuff, like guerrilla marketing stuff, be very, very, very successful and it grow to be like at a senior level very quickly for her knowledge. And I was like, Helen be knowing what she's doing over there. So, you know, she was a huge inspiration for me to, you know, feel encouraged and empowered to continue on the climb.
Was One Direction like that band for you?
Yeah.
It was One Direction?
Yeah. For me, like the joke is that I learned all of my, you know, everything I know is from the internet, and it's all by being like in the trenches of the One Direction fandom. I learned every digital like expertise, if you want to call it, like through the lens of being a One Direction fan. Just like how to build community, you know, how to engage and how to create engaging content, what worked, what didn't work, but also like how do you mobilize community once you have it? How do you spend dollars against community when they have it? Like, I mean, I'm still friends like with, you know, One Direction fans that was the origin of our entire friendship. I traveled the entire United States, like chasing One Direction. And
are you a Harry girl?
Of course. Like, come on. Like, no, it very much was a personality trait for me. And I was, not to be like, but I was one of the first ones, like in my area specifically too. Like it was very OG days. So it was me being like a trendsetter in my own spot, and then watching that trend grow was also like, okay, you're tapped in. Like, you know what's cool and what's gonna pop, which was important at that time too. But I would not have been as good
at what
I do now had I not done that for a long period of time, because even just like press conference, like knowing how a fan's get triggered, but Fred Siegel, knowing how a fan would think to move in a room, how they would think to approach outside.
Agreed.
Like those are things that like
put yourself in the position, and I'm like, okay, I see
hotels,
how this is how they're entering, and this is how the and I'm like, okay, that's what I would do, because, and I'm like, there's sometimes when fans do like.
Julie and I would be like, we would have done that. I gotta respect.
I'm like, no, and I'm like,
But I think it also makes us better at saying no.
Racing.
Oh my god. But like, it makes us better at saying no because we've been the girl on the other side. Like I'm never, and you neither, but like we've never been afraid to say no with a smile, you know?
Like, not right now.
You're like, sorry, they're busy at the moment. No, I've probably said I'm sorry in defense of someone else like thousands of times, but no, I have respect. I have a lot of respect for fangirls. I follow so many, especially like, I knew it's important to understand what your audience is saying. So like I followed Bryce fans, obviously like Sway fans, and I it's so important to like understand what the landscape is saying, and you know, before it goes on Insiders or a TikTok room,
and just the fans that like followed you before or like knew like you were the person, the inside source to like just a reply or something like that. 'Cause it's just one separation away from...
It kind of freaks me out, to be honest. Sometimes at first I was very overwhelmed by it because I think I never expected to be a creator. I've always looked at my life through the lens of a creator.
This girl got 200K on TikTok.
I think I lost it, to be honest, which is funny. I think I'm under 200K. Who knows?
Okay, go follow her.
Whatever. But like I never sought after any of that. Like I much rather be an well-known industry professional than like have clout on the internet.
Agreed.
Like the joke is I want to get to 100K and just go private and just like call it a day. Like, but
I do enjoy the free stuff that's sent.
I get less free stuff now, but I think I wear something free, but whatever.
I do enjoy that part, but
I mean, I think it was smart for companies to like include us because I'm like, of course I will reply with an address if you include me in it.
That's like, oh, Julie, we want to send you something.
Gifting.
And then they send it and there's like 40 other packages that they send for the house. I'm like, respect, smart marketing.
I liked when like brands, when, you know, we would do a successful campaign and then they would send a thank you. Like I appreciate that because like more than they know, I probably did, you know, help on things. So it always, for me, the thank yous always were the best piece of it. But
what has been your biggest struggle, not even just in the industry, like just being in LA?
I think I have an LA experience that is incomparable to anybody else. And it's sometimes hard to talk about because so much of it, you know, we can't talk about and, you know, you can't really talk about with people who don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's been my first year in LA looks unlike anything else anybody else has ever experienced, especially for a first year in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's been privileged. It's been, you know, the 1%. It's been movie. It's been cinematic.
Yeah.
Like it literally has. Like and it's been hard to process because every single day is like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I felt as though sometimes reality, it wasn't the same reality everybody else was living in because it's a nonstop thing.
Mm-hmm.
And no one really tells you that, like when you hop, like I literally just like stepped in the industry. Like a year ago I stepped in and I like
you haven't looked back.
You haven't looked back. But when you step in, like it's 24/7, like 8 days a week. Like,
yes.
Like you are constantly in it. You don't ever walk away from it. Personally, I'm someone who, and everybody's different. Like I love my work being about my life and I love my life being about my work.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted a degree of separation. I wanted my personality and my work to matter and as much as my personality outside of work to matter. And
that's why it's really important to love and care about what you do.
Absolutely. Like I didn't want to separate the two. Like I get people, you know, want to log out at 5 and not touch it. Like for me, that's not what I want out of a job. And my personality, I feel like is what is so crucial to me. And, you know, my reputation being tethered to my work is something that's powerful to me. And, you know, that has its ups and its downs because it can affect both ways. But I think if you're a decent person, like that's something that you can really use to your advantage. So I think it's been hard to have other people relate, obviously, to what I've been doing, but people have been empathetic. Like some people have been very empathetic and been like, yo, I get it. Like it's probably overwhelming to the, you know, it's 100% all the time. Like, and I don't think there's many other people who can say that, you know, every single day, like whether I'm on my phone, whether I'm here, like I'm existing in that same reality I stepped in a year ago.
Agreed.
And I won't step out until I delete everything and throw my phone into the ocean, you know, and that I personally love that, but you know, that comes with its moments. But I think it's hard to have people understand that that's my life now. And, you know, I'm not ignoring you on purpose. You know, I'm not dodging you on purpose. Like Julie and I go to events like 7 days a week. Like the fact that we're doing this is crazy, but it's also like it's a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Like this was a time that neither of us were doing something.
Like my phone's on do not disturb mode right now, and I guarantee there will be about 32 texts.
Yeah, like I'm lucky that I'm not in that space anymore. Yeah. But no, it's hard. It was a crazy year. It was and I was very emo about it being my 1 year. Like I'm a milestone girl.
I know, but those videos that you always do, like you are so good at capturing the moments.
I love a montage.
I know, and so that's like literally your retirement party. Like they're like setting everything up. Like no, I was like, hold on, like don't touch anything until I take the photos and videos before Rafy gets her because she likes this stuff.
Yeah, I do love that stuff.
And then like when you like walked in, I was like, no, stop, move, I gotta take this. I was like, this is for Rafy. Like she needs this captured. I was like, these are moments. I was like, Bryce, stand in front of there. Let me take some photos.
No, I love the photo of him standing with the alcohol. Yeah. Just like, no, I love documentation of lived experience. Like whether that's like I write about everything, I take photos of everything, I vlog into my camera roll. Like
yes,
for the bit. Like
if that camera roll was public,
oh man, if my iCloud ever got hacked, no, I'm kidding. But it's like I'm very lucky that almost every single day of the last year has been documented in some sort of a way.
Agreed.
So while the last year was crazy, like I have a video, I've sometimes 3 videos a week to prove what I was doing or what I was working on. And there's tangible stuff for it.
And a lot of it's like once in a lifetime opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. It's like once a week, it's like, this will never happen again.
No.
You know, and it's just like, holy shit.
What I used to say with Bryce, and I stand by this, is like we got to be a part of so many people's favorite days. And for me, it was just a normal day. Like it was an average Tuesday at that, you know, it wasn't insane. But like for somebody on that day, it was the best day of their life. Like they had the best time and like they will think of that memory. And for me, it was a Tuesday. So like it humbled me a lot to think like that and to think that who we were surrounded by, like some of them, like that was their passions. And that was, you know, I think about like the Pokemon card stuff. Like, like we brought in somebody to come like evaluate Pokemon cards. Like he never would have had an opportunity like that. And like we got to do that for him. And he would tell me, he was like, that literally like that changed my life. Like I didn't realize that, you know, other people had a passion for that. And I had the opportunity to do something as cool as that. And for me, I was like, I just really needed somebody to open Pokemon cards. And like, I'm glad I had the ability to like give someone such a good memory.
And an opportunity
Yeah. And for me, I was like, wow, okay, the power for me is to create like other people's, you know, good experiences and live experiences. So to be company in a lot of those situations, like how do I create, you know, some of those best experiences for people? So then I started looking at it through that lens, and I had a lot more fun with, because like it's overwhelming to do, you know, we were doing like 6 bits a week at one point, and you're like, oh my God, I have to get a slide, I have to get Velcro roll, I have to get, you know, dunk tank, I have to get all these things.
Isn't it weird that for me, the most frustrating things are like the little things, like that kind of stuff. Like
it's the things that, like, it's the things no one thinks about. Like, and there are so many things that, you know, go into creating these people's lives and their careers and their day-to-day.
Like my phone going off all day doesn't bother me. Could care less. But when I'm trying to make an order for something random for something and it's like accidentally it canceled or delivery was
mouth
wrong.
Guards, perfect example.
Yes.
Mouth guards for the fight. Like
just like little things, and I'm like, the bigger stuff that like consume my life, like I don't worry about, but it's like just then that
the tiny
little things. And I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna cry over this right now?
It's the curse of being like very big picture and little detail oriented people as well. Like I've always struggled with that question. It's because like I am conceptual. I love a big concept. I love executing a strategy, but like the nitty gritty is like so valuable and so important that I am good at doing that as well.
Yeah, and I will say too is like just being in LA and I've been in this industry for a long time, and like I'm someone that I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, that's Julie's catchphrase.
But until I met you, I was like, I don't have to do it myself. Yeah. But I never would do it before. I mean, like, even in, like, I'm like, I'll just do it. Like, I'll just do it. Like, and then I was like, and then we started, like, kind of partnering on the fight and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, is there someone else in this world that matches my, like, psychotic perfectionist energy? And I'm like, I think there is.
No, I think it became everyone's problem when we became friends. Like, the if anything, like the fight, we had to pair it together on that one. Yes. Like it was, you know,
for everyone's best interest.
Everybody involved in that fight, it was the best thing that ever happened that Julie and I joined forces. And we ended up taking care of like half of the fight. But
Shout out Ryland
Storms. We love you. But there was so many pieces that we were fully integrated in, and you know, if we hadn't been able to delegate from you to me, from me to you, and you know, divide and conquer, like it would have never gotten done.
No.
And that's why we spent 3 weeks in Miami, like ripping our hair out. But
I just feel like I struggle with like finding that person. I'm like, okay, well, like, I can't handle this right now. So, like, that's, like, during the fight, I was like, I'll handle this part, you handle that part. Where normally I never would have, but I was like, Rafy's got it, I don't even have to think about it.
A lot of the times, though, it's, like, it's difficult for people who are in our roles to meet each other. I think it's a very isolating thing. Like, I know you had said, like, you didn't see other people, you know, outside compound, and like I didn't see a lot of people outside of Sway doing what I was doing, and like I made it a point every time we went to another house that I knew there was an assistant. Like you get to know the assistant. Like I think there's a huge network of us like holding down these houses and these people. Shout out Priscilla. Priscilla for Mr. Little Huddy. Like she's a queen. Like, and you know, a lot of people don't know that she like holds down that house. And
like just watching her, because we were over there a couple weeks ago, and like watching her do exactly after a party or this and that, and I'm like,
we're like, Julie and I are like, do we look like that when we moved through a party?
I was like, are you good? Like, do you need help? She's like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm like, I know the same thing would happen if I was like, are you sure? Like, it's like, we're here. But even someone we both talked about that we think just is like also a goat and all this is like Danny with Logan Paul's assistant.
Oh, absolutely. I have never met Danny Strobel, but I have tuned in for a very long time. I think her Impulsive episode was so validating to listen to. And if you've not listened to it, you need to. Because it is a very, very good insight into what it's like and how it can change creator to creator. And a lot of the struggles that she had and that she voiced on that pod were things that, you know, were very valid to hear.
That's right. Even, like, they asked, like, what was, like, been the hardest job? And she said something about, like, the jet skis or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
the jet skis.
And that's why I'm like, yes,
the
it's
jet
the
ski
little
period of
thing.
time.
It's, like, the little things that...
Like, I think she said, like, the jet ski era. And I'm like, yeah, like, the Pokemon era for me. Yeah. Like they're the Miami era, the fight era. Like there's like different little pieces. Danny, a huge inspo, and also like been in the game a minute.
Been with him for
a while, and you know I respect that so much. And I haven't ever met her, but to see her work, and for me, I think the thing that's magical about her specifically is she maintains a real life. And I think that is so inspiring. And I hope that is as a result of the pod, because I think they talked about it on there. They talked about her personal life. But I love, like, that she, like, does her own thing. And that her entire personality is not that.
And I think we talked about that before, too, is, like, what our jobs is. And, like, my friend had to say it to me, like, a couple weeks ago. It was, like, we were cool and we're doing cool things before the people we were associated with.
Correct.
And like worked for, and then like
shocking to believe, right?
Yeah, like
no, I thought I was a boss before this.
Too. Like and then like
you're all catching up to late news, really.
Yeah, like and then like but then like Tana validating it for us at parties. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad like everyone else is getting it.
Yeah.
But like I had to like my friend had to like kind of say, he was like, what are you like tripping over? Like what's wrong? He was like, you were doing this shit before. Like you were like doing like
you're doing cool shit
stuff
before,
and he was like, and so that's why I'm like glad the pod, like I think after that, like just kind of like the pod, I'm like I was doing a freaking podcast and it was doing so well, and I haven't had time to do the podcast, and something that I care about, and like talking to people like you who are inspiration to, like, you're not gonna think about it, but like there's gonna be people that are listening to this and be like, oh shit, because of this I want to go do this now because Rafy, you know. And so like I was like, I want to be that person for the people that were us, and I forgot about that. And so it's like
I wish we had more people that you know talked about it. Like because I know what it's like to extend like a helping hand, and I know what it's like to have somebody on the other side,
and I know what it's like for someone not to give you a helping hand.
Exactly. And like granted, the influx now is a lot different. Like, it takes a lot of time. But it's like, for people that I believe in and that I see talent in and work in, like, I would love to be somebody to mentor someone else. And I think it's important to have open, communication about it. Like, I don't want it. There's no gatekeeping here. Like, I wish more people had talked about this being an opportunity. Had Natalie not done it for me, shout out. Like, if Natalie hadn't done it for me, I wouldn't even think it was a job. Like, I wouldn't know it was a real thing that someone could build. And like, I don't want to be her. I don't want to model my career after hers. But, like, she was the blueprint for the start of what that looked like. And, and what her responsibilities, like, I didn't think you had to, like, get a circus on, a random Wednesday. But, like, sometimes you have to get a circus on a random Wednesday. And, like, that... I learned that through watching her, and I don't know, I think it's important to remember that what we brought to the table before those jobs, like, mattered. For me, it's been hard to think, like, I'm very new on the scene, and there's people who have been doing this a lot longer than I have and have relationships that are a lot deeper than I have in my last year, but I kind of liked being the new kid on the block who, like, came and, like, kind of disrupted what was going down, and, like,
the new norm.
That great. Like, if I could help, re-jolt everybody and remembering what we're supposed to be doing here, like, cool. Like, I think there's people who, you know, needed a bit of a switch up and needed to see that, like, there are people outside of this bubble specifically who are talented and bring something to the table. And I was lucky that, you know, I could drop everything 2 weeks later, come here, and, like, my life started again. Mm-hmm. But mid-pandemic, no one else is doing that. Like, I took a huge risk, huge risk to do it.
The timing of it all was just crazy.
huge risk. And, like, people think that, like, a lot of people thought I was related for a long time, like, wanted to, you know, discredit the work that I was doing for a long time. A lot of people didn't understand what I was doing for a really long time. And, like, those weren't my questions to answer. I didn't feel like I had to justify any of it to anybody. And I was like, I don't feel like I need to tell you all, but just understand, like, it's being handled. Mm-hmm. Like, it's getting done. And, you know, without that trust that grew over time, I grew to be responsible for a lot more things, and things that we, like, never had to even talk about. And I'm lucky that someone saw the talent in that job and then offered me something that they thought was good for me to move forward. And, mm-hmm. you know, there was a lot of people who had eyes on me who could make it happen for me. And that was what was important. And, like, all I had to do was, like, keep my head down and grind. And, like, that was my MO. And mm-hmm. that's what I wanted to do. And I was like, everything else to take care of it. And it happened. So mm-hmm. it was not without hard work, but it was also like, yeah, I got lucky. Like, the right people were in the right spot, the right time, seeing me do it.
The rooms that you put yourself in, though.
Right. So, I don't know. I think the industry is growing and it is changing, and it needs more people like us who, you know, enjoy being the problem solvers. The industry is so smart, and there's not enough people who, like...
And smart
and so small. Like, I think people think it's way bigger than it really mm-hmm. is. And that was a mistake. I thought everybody had a team. I thought everybody had, you know, full teams.
And
like,
then you realize,
and
like,
then I walked in and I was like,
am I also part of your team? Why are you texting me so much?
You're like, oh my God, no, that's not the case. And, you know, even the teams that exist are small, very, very small. And sometimes they're only, like, a manager and a lawyer, or sometimes an agent and a lawyer and a mom, or, you know, it's like there are different levels of investment mm-hmm. from different people. And, like, some of my close friends now, like, have no reps, and they're mm-hmm. like, hey, Raph, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this on your own. So I think...
And then there's people at teams of 20, like, that have the full teams.
Have full teams, and, you know, sometimes those are the people who are less successful than the guy who's doing it by themselves. So mm-hmm. I don't think it's a metric of productivity or success at all, because, you know, everybody's doing it differently, and there's no rule book. There was Zero. No rule book, and you're making it up as you go. You figure it out day by day. And I used to say the affirmation every single day on my way to Bryce's. That was literally like, there is no job that you can't do. Well, actually, what is the actual phrasing of it? 1, you're deserving of someone's love, attention, and care. 2, there is no job you can't do that you don't deem worthy of your time. Mm-hmm. So for me, my time is very precious. And I was like, if I no longer feel as though I need to give time to something, it's no longer, like, the job worth doing for me. And I remember being like, okay, that makes you unstoppable in the grand scheme of things, because if you can say that the time is worth being spent on this, then it's worth doing for me.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
I was nervous every day. Are you kidding? I was nervous I was going to get fired for, like, first 6 months. But that's also, like, me having anxiety.
Rafy helps me talk.
Rafy helps me talk. Oh, my God. The show.
We both were involved in that on 2 different ends.
Yeah, I mean, at what point did you ever think you were going to be on the back end and the front end of a reality show?
Never.
Like...
I'm just like... The producers would text me, like, you sit in the same corner every single day with your laptop working. I'm like, because I gotta work. And they're like, but every day. And I'm like, yes. Like, where else would you like me to go?
It was funny for me, first way, to, like, be planning, like, for example, bungee jumping. Coordinating bungee jumping on the back end, and then being also on screen, obviously on screen and on camera to jump. It was like...
Instagram did not like that video.
Instagram took that video. Honestly, wrong for it. And at the time, it was, like, my most liked video ever. And I was like, everybody else gets to put their bungee jumping videos. You guys are mad I made a joke. Whatever. We get it. And I was like, this was me conquering a fear. But it was, like, me dragging people out of bed in the morning, but way before cameras even got there, you know? It was making sure we were in the car, which was, like, a bit. And we got to the right address, text the producers, COVID test, like...
every day?
Every day. Like, it was...
For 3 months.
So much legwork, but we were lucky we had great crew. Like,
yeah, I loved our crew.
Our crew was sick, and I think they understood. They were for me some of the first people to make me feel like I was really validated. Shout out Steve. Like, they were like some of the first people who really gave me like affirmations, like validation on a reg that was like, you are doing something that like not many people can do.
Steve literally said to me, he's like, you and Rafy, powerhouse together, duo, what's going on?
And like, we hadn't really been.
We weren't even. And
we weren't that.
Like, I think when he said that to me, I called you.
You did, and you were like, Steve just told us like we gotta be tight with each other.
Yeah, he was just like, I think you too, and I'm like, okay.
Well, he told us, he was like, when the day ever comes, like, you know, you can call me, and we were like, oh wow, you like actually believe in us. Like, haven't had anybody like really vocalize
like
that.
him who's been in this industry, he's done it all. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, when a showrunner is telling you that like you're doing work that like he's never seen before, I'm like, well, first of all, who are you around? Second of all, like, am I doing anything crazy? Really?
Yeah.
But
I was like, I thought I was just doing my normal job.
That made me seriously consider production for a hot sec, because I was like, maybe that's like, and that's obviously that's
creative, and it's in the creative field.
It's in the creative field, but also a route I never thought I would ever get a taste at. But I think my pinned tweet was like, I was depressed a year ago, and now I have 3 reality TV show like episodes about me.
Oh, yours and J-Rod's is good too.
I love the one about me and J-Rod.
What would be, this is like a two-part question. What is any advice that you have for someone that like wants to do what you do, and what is the advice that you would have for someone that needs to hire someone that we do?
So, I mean, the first question is like what we get asked probably more than anything else. What I would tell somebody is knowledge is power. Like, understand everything, but also understand your niche, understand what you bring to the table more than anything else, and be ready to execute on it almost immediately. So I know I can talk. Like, I know I can get in a room. I know I can talk to people. I know I'm social enough to make people feel comfortable. And like, for me, that is like one of my strongest attributes, especially as a worker. But also, like, there is no task or no challenge, no problem that I don't enjoy to solve. And if you are the type of person who doesn't like to solve both the big problems and little problems, this job is not for you.
Tesla, 2 miles, you're not near anything, what are you charging it? That is a big one.
Yeah, and you have to know to be independent enough to not ask. I mean, like, if you're a person who asks a lot of questions, like,
our job is that, like, they don't understand, like, who we work for, who people work, like, we're solving problems that they don't even know about. So then they're like, oh, like, well, what did you, like, what? And it's like, no, like, I don't even bring it to your attention because it's fixed.
Right.
There was a big problem. I fixed it so that you didn't even have to know there was a problem.
100%. And a lot of the times it was like, I'm doing things you have no idea about. Like, I'm handling things that, like, I'm not even coming to you about at this point because they're just a part of my routine. And I know I'm doing it well by you not even having to notice that it's happening.
Agreed.
But obviously that's where, you know, you create structure, and that's whatever you bring to the job. But it makes the task that you are given so much more important because there's so many things going on behind the scenes. So you just like have to execute on everything. So my biggest piece of advice is like, first of all, anybody who's making fun of you for caring about like the things that you care about online, wrong. Like, first and foremost, wrong. Like,
the whole house very much is aware. If Nick Jonas ever DMs any of them and they don't tell me, like, they know. So, like...
Yeah, like, for me, I was told, you're weird for being a One Direction fan. Like, you're online too much. You put all your business on the internet. Like... I literally grabbed Nate's phone one day. I was like, can I just have this real quick? He's like, yeah, what? I DM'd Nick Jonas. And he was like, okay, if you're going to DM, at least say something I want to say. No response, but at least he didn't respond to Nate. It wasn't me. No, but it's just like... I know what it's like to be, like, made fun of on the internet for something like that. And, you know, what's cool is, like, a lot of the fans that I've interacted with and gotten to know through this, like, they're like, I'm so happy that a fangirl made it. And for me, that's important. Like, for me, that is really important. And for them to be like, you know what I'm doing right now is valuable because, look, somebody else did it for somebody else and it worked. So for me, it's like, yeah, if you care about whatever you care about on the internet, like, there's a community, there's a job, there's a dollar amount behind that somebody needs somewhere. Like, passion makes money. Like niche communities make money. Like, community is the number one thing that people are trying to chase after.
Yeah.
And they spend so much money trying to create it. Like, if you are somebody who is good at naturally creating organic communities, like, you're going to go so far in life. And for me, like, I was part of One Direction community. I was part of a huge, massive thing. And I created subgroups within that existed for me and were real relationships. And for me, it was like, that was what was important. So advice-wise is like, keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving what you love. And you know what? Like, turn your passions into a career, because like, it is possible to do so. You do not have to accept like a dumbass job, or like, not saying that every job is not creative, whatever, but like, if you want to make a job out of your passions, make a job out of your passions. If you want to work a 9 to 5 and disassociate at 5 p.m., do that if that's best for you. But like, if you really want to hustle, like, it's possible. Like, opportunities are necessary for sure, but like, you can chase.
We both, the thing is too, is like, we both, it's like, I mean, I'm speaking from my parents and nobody in my family have anything to do with the industry.
Not me neither. I don't have a
like,
connect to my name.
We created every path ourselves. So it's like, as like every person that you meet at a concert as a fan, like, or like you see someone like checking you in for VIP, just ask them how they started, or like ask for a business card and be like, I'd love to shout at you at the next show. Or like, that's what I did for everything.
I also like, I follow people that inspire me. Like, I don't think there's shade in that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I have followed, like I said, the creator partnership team at Instagram, I have followed their career for a decade almost at this point. Like, they are all in new projects, and now I have relationships with some of them, which is crazy, insane to me. But it's like, fangirls that I met at shows are working jobs for artists now, and those artists want to work with the people I'm working with, and the talent, and like, the connect
comes full circle.
But everybody, we all see each other at the same events. We see each other at the same parties, and now we are in an opportunity to help each other.
And it's like, holy crap, we all did this.
Oh, you run deep. Yeah. How do you know each other? One Direction fan account. Like, say what you want about it. Like, we were stands online together. Like, she works in digital. Yeah, say me too. Like, it makes sense. So, I think that's the biggest piece of it. What was the second question?
For someone who needs to is gonna hire someone, like,
what to look for.
Yeah, or like also like what they need. Like, just any, like, what would that advice be?
Well, as somebody who kind of started to be hiring, I think it's important to be a professional first in this industry. Like, we, especially us, I think we look like friends to the internet and to everybody, and we are, and that is a valuable piece of it. But if you ask anybody, like, Julie and I are business women, like, we are professionals in every situation, and we want to be known as such. Like, we want to make sure that if we are ever in a setting and there is a problem, you come to find us first. And a lot of the times that happens because we have that reputation. And I think you need to find people who want to be professional first, who understand the temperature of the industry. So, like, you can be both. You can be a professional, you can bring something to the table, you can do your job well, and you can also be personable. You don't have to strictly be business, you know? Yeah. But also, like, you want a jack of all trades. Like, people used to shade me and be like, you're not good at one thing. You know, you're not that special because you're not an expert at one thing. Me being a jack of all trades was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, me knowing a little bit about a lot.
Everything. And just the common sense side of it.
Common sense. Like, I think we operate on so much logic, and like, maybe a lot of people don't have the logic, but I think we are able to process information quickly, make decisions quickly, and stand by our decisions quickly. So I think that's valuable. And you need somebody who not only can do ideation and like think through a big idea, but an execution person as well, who can execute an idea on their own. Like, you want to throw a birthday party, you want it to be the craziest thing you've ever done, great. Give me ideas, but also show me how you're gonna run it. Like, show me a run of show. Show me your vendors. Like, show me how you're gonna bring it to the table and how you're gonna execute it, because we're not scared to get on a phone call. We're not scared to respond to an email. Like, you got to be the executor on top of, like, being an ideation person. And so many people out here, I think what sets us apart, and, you know, some of the people we're friends with, is, like, we get it done. We don't only just dream of it. Like, a lot of people out here have big dreams, and, like, we do too. But, like, not everyone has the drive or the hustle or, you know, the want and desire to immediately action after an idea. Like, we're always thinking about the next thing, or at least we're trying to.
Yeah.
We're just never content with where we are.
No,
so we're always just trying to move to the next thing. So I think that's a huge piece of what you have to look for. And those are hard things to know without testing somebody. I mean, like, even
just throwing them into a situation.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know what Warren saw in me in a phone call in the amount of time he saw me. I think he got lucky.
Yeah.
I think he didn't know either. And we were hopeful it would work out. But I think that question all the time. I'm like, what in my conversation with Bryce did I say that made him think that this was it?
I'm going to piggyback off of, like, the professional first and, like, business second is, like, everyone sees me as, like, the big sister to the twins. Everybody. But if you sit down with the twins and they will say, like, when it's work time or when it's, like, I'm not playing this game, like, they'll be like, oh, no, Julie's business first. Like, will I kill someone for those girls? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Don't even. But, like, we have our meetings weekly. Like, we put business first. Or if there's, like, a sitting where it's, like, we're out and it's like friends, but it has to like flip the switch. Like my switch.
Oh, it's instantaneous.
Yes, like even if we're like out of place and I have a drink or something. Oh god, no. Like,
I mean, that rarely ever happens.
Yes, but you know what I mean. It's like nope. Like, or if it's because I'm out with my friends and then someone shows up that like I'm like literally a couple
we have been places where we have been there and then talent like our friends show up and we're like, oh man,
I was
like,
literally
we were out before.
I was at my friend's house 2 weeks ago. Friends from home that like moved out here, like nothing to do with and a crew walked in and I'm like, no, like this is like
remember that happened in Miami?
Out. Like yes, this is like my night out of like fun, and I'm like, okay, well, not drinking now.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, and it's funny because I'm sure they would be like, Julie, you can do whatever you want.
Oh yeah.
But for us, it's like no, you'll
never. There's
never.
like a time and place.
But there is a huge. But it's also like the internet sees so little and knows 1%. And they draw conclusions, which I'm like, sometimes they're right. I'm like, wow, I don't really know how you got there, but sure, like crazy that you're thinking on those terms. But a lot of the times they're wrong and they don't understand what the reality of the situation is. But I think I took on a big sister role too, like at the house, and people came to me about things I never thought they would come to me about. And I took on a platonic female friendship role to the majority of them.
Yeah.
And I think they know that they can come to me for those things, but they also know, like, in a professional capacity, at that time, I would have dropped everything to do that piece of it. And I never expected the friendship. I always expected the professional relationship, and I was thankful to have gotten the friendship. But, like, I could have done my job just as well without that piece of it. And I think that's what's crucial, because I think a lot of people come into this role hoping the friendships will get you where you want to go, and that's not the most important piece.
Yeah, no, friends, like, I'd be okay. Like, seriously, I'd be okay if no one didn't think, like, oh, you're friends with blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, am I?
But it's also, like, it's funny because it's, like, my friendship with Bryce changed post me working for Bryce. And I think a lot of people thought they understood that friendship the entire time, and then they think that they understand the friendship now, and I'm like, you have really no idea what this looks like. And I'm lucky that Bryce and I have entered like kind of this new era of our friendship that doesn't have me as, you know, his person, his point. So we've been trying to navigate that and understand that, and you know, we're chasing it with a fun attitude as much as we can. And it is fun to watch that relationship change now versus like when, you know, he was cutting me a check. Like it's different. It's obviously different.
Like, yeah. And you like also like going out and seeing him, and it's like you're actually just going out and seeing him, where it's like not going with him to where you are, like having
we're in the same setting that we used to be in, and when I'm still oftentimes a lot of the time with him at said places, but like one, it's my choice now, and I get to invite him to things, which is very fun for me, and I play a different role in those settings than I used to. I'm not worried about the same things I used to be worried about. I get to have a different look at what those events are, because I have a different role, and my purpose in being there is very different. Trips used to be very different for me, because trips were, I am the person.
Yeah.
It falls on my back. And now I'm like, I'm excited to see, you know, us try to plan things with them and see that like, that's not my role anymore. But I'm lucky that I got to be that person for as long as, and he really let me like, He let me do as I needed to do. And
yeah, that's great.
I think he just wanted the help and needed the help, and I was right place, right time. And we meshed well for a long time. So
where do you see, like, what are you excited for the next 6 months?
Ooh.
Like,
For the first time ever, I'm not panicked about where I'll be in 6 months, which for me is a big thing. I'm like
not content, but content.
I'm not content, but content. I'm always trying to I think I'm ready to be better in-house. I'm ready to I think I've done an immense amount of growth for my person in the last year. Professionally, I'm ready to grow where I'm at. This is a dream role for me. It is a dream coming true to get to do what I do. And I think I'm ready to get really good at it. And it might have been a lot of raw skills that I had. I don't have a hard talent. They're all soft skills.
But your whole job too, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's adjusting. And it's getting texts from me saying, hey, sorry, what are the details?
Yeah,
and now we get to work with each other on a completely different...
It's innovative, it's creative, but it's a new step in professionalism for me. And the
emails that we have to send each other back and forth, I'm like, what?
Julie and I communicate in 3 different platforms at a given time. And she's one of the only people I do that with. I don't DM people and text people and FaceTime people, and let alone email them as well. I'm constantly in communication with Julie. But there's very few things that Julie knows that I don't know, and then I don't know that Julie doesn't know. And that's just because we feel like we're tapped in with everything.
Mm-hmm. If there's any situation, I'm like, okay, I need your opinion on this. She'll tell me. And I'm like, okay, cool. And the same thing. It's this is where I'm at, because not a lot of people understand any
the
of
space is very difficult to understand. And we're working with a lot of young people, and I don't take that piece of it lightly. You have to give a lot of grace and patience to a lot of it because of that, and because there's an age gap between us and them a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm respectfully, you're wrong. When you're ready to have that conversation, I'm ready to have it. But until then, let me support you in the best way possible. And that's a lot of the time, that's what the conversation is. And my favorite thing is when they're like Baron will come to me and be like, Rafy, you were right. And I'm like, oh, right on time. It's good to know they keep
write
coming
that down.
back. Yeah. But no, it's cool to have relationships and for them to be really good friendships too. And I'm excited for the next 6 months to see, what Triller looks like.
I'm excited for Triller too.
I'm excited for all of that. There's a lot of movement right now also with a lot of friends. There's a lot of movement just in general in the industry. And I think this fall is a reset, and it's also a time for a lot of people to prove a lot of things to the industry.
Growth too.
Growth. We are a year into this. We were 2 years into this with some people. I think now is the moment where it's if you're not turning out the best stuff you can turn out, it's gonna fade. And I'm excited for the people who have creativity to continue and to get innovative, and I'm excited to help those people. But I think it's a huge risk taking right now. You got to have your game face on, and you got to be ready to execute. And there's just so much going on right now that I'm sure people will start to understand very, very soon. But until the dust settles, we're very much caught up in it. So
yeah.
I mean, it's true. There are houses. There's just different stuff going on right now, and there's new creators on the block too, and I'm trying to see who's doing what, who's cool, who's new, who's fresh.
Is there anyone you're looking at right now that's just popping recently?
I'm interested by the new Too Hot to Handle people, interested in their world.
Markel's also very interested in them.
I know Markel loves them. Markel, I'm excited. Markel to me is a top tier type of creator, and numbers wise his growth is there, but I'm excited to see him really double up and let's get this thing going, because to me Markel is doing it the way that everyone should do it, and couldn't say better things about him. And I'm excited to see where his career...
He knows how important relationships are too.
Well, he just understands the game well, and we love to play. It's strategy is so important, thinking through things, being logical about them, talking through things. My favorite thing to say is finish the thought.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you get caught up and you're like, oh, what should we do? How do we handle this? And then it's okay, just what are my options? And it's finish the thought. So I'm excited for him. I'm into niche creators right now. I'm trying to find people who are the number one in their
what they do,
their respective community. So I've been using the example of Ants Canada. If you've come across Ants Canada, god tier, like literally god tier YouTuber, like ranking like probably like 4 million subs, over 1.5 every single video, and he is a ant and bugs creator, and he is so creative. Great channel, great recommendation. Like, he's phenomenal. He's a great channel. Like, it started with me trying to get an ant colony, an ant farm. That's what it was. And I was trying to research so I didn't like kill the ants, and I wanted to get one that was like eco-friendly and like, you know, safe for the ants. So I was doing some research and I found this great YouTube channel. And then I found this other guy who is currently doing Aquacella, which is the biggest fish exposium like ever in Chicago. And he is a fish, wildlife, and like fish tank creator, which I didn't think like had, that's kinda cool. I didn't think it was a thing. And like, I looked at his YouTube videos. Great. Imagine this life, Julie. He travels and just like plays with fish and like swims, dives.
No, I'm not really into that. Like, we went in the ocean, but like the creatures.
Julie's not like a ocean gal. She's I like
really swimming, like as long as there's nothing in there. Like Rafy literally was like, hey, like when we're in Miami, she's like, hey, just like be careful, be aware of your surroundings. And I'm like, okay, like Rafy been swimming for an hour. What do you mean? And she goes, oh, there's sharks. I'm like, gotta go.
Julie, like the idea.
I ran out of that ocean so quick. She's like, what? I'm like,
sharks in the ocean? Shocking, right? But like, a recent discovery.
Just not for me.
No, and I'm like someone who's like, put me in the water for hours.
Yes.
Like, we were just scared to be in the water so we weren't on our phones, honestly. Like,
yes.
We were trying to take like 15 minutes.
Training. Let's go swim.
15 minutes so that anytime we would like get out, we'd be like, anything we missed. And, and honestly, like we would be like, oh, here we go. It's FaceTime, phone call, email.
Like, you get this and I got that one.
But no, I'm excited to see, like, I'm just excited. I'm excited
for you. And like, when you told me this role,
I'm excited for a lot of my friends to see what their next steps are. And that's important to me as well. And a lot of movement.
Yeah. I'm excited for everybody, for change. And I just...
New blood. No, new. I want somebody to start shaking things up. Like, I'm down for... I love people who are disruptive in that way. Probably why I really enjoyed, you know, being with Bryce, because I think he's disruptive in the scene.
In the correct way, though.
In the correct way.
Sometimes, yeah.
Here and there. But I think once you have people who are willing to... Like, I think Cam Casey is a great follow. I think Cam Casey is... Arak, another one. Like, people who are really, really stepping in and like locking in a year in, really making all kinds of moves. Like, Eric is like doing like creator now. He's doing like platform things. Like, he's expanding at such an exponential rate that like it's hard not to keep eyes on him.
Yeah.
Cam's the same way. Like, I'm like, it's so interesting to me the way that people diversify. It's interesting to me the innovative ideas that people are coming up with, because like, obviously the tale as old as time is that everything has been done already before in this industry, and I just don't think that's true.
I don't think so
and
either.
I think uncreative people keep saying that, so I think there just needs to be more pairs of creativity. To see that
person break that boundary. Yeah,
and like, no shame in trying to find someone who can execute if you're a creative. Like, create dream teams. Like, it is worth paying people to do. That is my biggest piece of advice. Pay people who are talented, and give credit and respect to the people who help you get where you're getting, because, you know, teams play a huge part in what we do.
Agreed.
And a lot of these people would not be where they are without them. So it's fun to watch something you create come to life. It's fun to see that. Do we talk our shit?
I think
any final things?
Wait till October. People.
I have been saying that August and September, I'm speaking into camera of this, August and September are going to be the most crucial period of time in this industry. And specifically in our world, not digital as a whole, but like things are going to get just like switched up and
change and like new
and embrace change. Like, I think the best times, most innovative times was a year ago when everything was moving. And
I think things have been kind of like this.
Everything's plateaued. Everyone like chilled for a minute, and like, sometimes that's necessary, but like, everyone was saying that energy was off this summer, and I think that's true. I think there was a lot of weird...
People were trying to find their way, but like, energy. I don't know, clicky or whatever it was, but...
we've watched people become so successful in the last year and the growth is crazy. Like, why not? It could be anybody. Why not? Lean in.
Yeah.
Lean in. And just like work, man. It's easy to get caught up in not working in this. Because like it looks like a lot of parties and a lot of hangouts and a lot of not the tedious little things. But
yeah.
It is the tedious little things that keep it's the full calendar. It's the full calendar scheduled out that keeps it going.
I'm excited for this. I'm excited for Fangirl Fantasy podcast to come back. I'm excited the Fangirl Fantasy events are back. So for everyone listening,
I'm excited to be at an event hopefully soon.
It's been a long time coming and all the pieces are finally moving into place. And I know there's a lot of copycat events out there and just I know that. And I'm excited for like people to finally see like what I've been working on and why I'm not jumping to start these events so soon, because what I'm like when you're kind of you're gonna know when it's a Fangirl Fantasy event. And so I know I've neglected it for a little while, but I'm back and it's full swing, all of my attention, and I'm excited for that.
Julie got her mojo back.
Yeah,
Julie got her mojo back,
kick in the butt.
And it's, if you see me at a One Direction, I say nothing. You did see me. You did in fact see me at a One Direction.
She will be at a One Direction. I will drop the tag when she's there. But I'm excited. I'm excited for you and me and our continued growth together in this world and how it just. I'm excited to see us in 6 months and a year and me and you just being like, we knew this is going to happen for us.
Yeah, because I'm always scared to be associated in a game like this. It's a delicate thing to balance, association with somebody. But I'm like, Julie and I are chill. Like, Julie and I can be associated and we know it's getting done well.
Yes, yeah.
If our names are attached to it, hopefully you and
that
Rafy,
means... Or you and Rafy. And I'm like, normally, I'm the same way. I'm like, no, I'm Julie. Like, Julie's doing this. And I'm like, whatever, Rafy is just as respect as I am. She does the job. I'm like, yes, me and Rafy are going to do this, and me and Rafy are going to watch out.
It's funny because this is the first time I feel like we're embracing the confidence that these things that are being told to us. Like, because for, I think, a very long time, we were very scared of us being well-liked.
Yes.
Especially on the backs of what we were doing. So it's nice to get the compliment. I used to be scared of every compliment I got, especially from another creator, because I was like, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, when Tana walks up to us and says, like, you girls are literally amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, queen.
and just the higher ups in these companies, you know, or in these people that, like, we do these back-end deals with, or we help them create the bigger picture for things, and they're like, no one's ever been easier to work with or that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And like for me, and I don't know if it's you, it's like, I just thought I was doing my normal job. This is how I always operate.
Same.
So.
But it's good to know that they're not dealing with people like that all the time.
Yeah.
So we just thought we were doing what was required of us, but it turns out that that's apparently a superb job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to get the validation sometimes. And
definitely.
And I think we deserve even the
pats on the back.
The slightest little pat on the back. And we know what egos look like, and I don't think neither of us have one. But not yet.
I hope you guys, I know this podcast is probably what a lot of people, I mean, we obviously can't talk about a lot of things that I know are people are going to be like, well, you never even talked about this person or that. But I don't think I
said anything I regret. So.
No, I don't.
I also didn't. I was always like, I can't be on a podcast. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I have to be on Julie's.
Yeah, so I know the comments when this is going to be posted, and people are going to be like, our queens, yes, we love you guys, because everyone loves us as a duo. So thank you for coming on.
Of course, thank you for having me.
I just feel like this is a normal conversation that we have every day.
It kind of was.
We're just repeating stuff that we talk about all the time.
From one fangirl to another. Like, I would rather say it all here than say it anywhere else. So.
Agreed. So thank you everyone for listening. I promise you this will be consistent, and we will have our weekly podcast back. And if I don't see you at an event, I'm going to be really disappointed. Check out our social media, fangirl_fantasy, and I will talk to y'all next week.
Bye.